Cool. Hi, everybody. All right. Let me take a quick look at the questions, and then I have a topic I want to talk about first. Then we're going to jump into questions. All right, interesting. All right, quite a few questions so far. Let's get started. I want to talk about, let me see if there are new ones coming in. All right, let's get started. So, hi everybody. I want to talk about something today that I don't think I've talked to this group before, and that is something that, all of us know about we all know about the effectiveness of accountability, holding ourselves accountable for our progress. And I always say, hold yourself accountable to an objective measure of progress, meaning, some measure of progress that can be measured objectively, not based on your own feelings, right? And we started we had our in-person mastermind this weekend, and I introduced an accountability framework that actually worked very well in a live setting where the audience were in front of me and we could go back and forth and build it together. For this group, you have to hold yourself accountable. As I walk through this framework, hopefully you should basically just absorb the framework and try to apply it to your own business projects. And you're not in front of me to work together. Maybe we can do some interaction through the questions, right, after I introduce the framework. And we go from there. So let me just get started. So here's a simple framework for accountability that I've created. And I want to share it with you guys today. We call it accountability framework. And also, let me say why the framework is designed this way. This is how I personally keep track of my own progress in business. I don't rely on my own gut feelings or how, if I feel like I'm making progress or not. I kind of try to ignore my gut feeling in that regard as much as possible and just go with things that I can actually objectively measure to the extent that's possible. I mean, at the end of the day, business is somewhat subjective. You try to make it as objective and organized as possible. And this is my best attempt at it. This is how I think about it. And, I'm hoping you guys also benefit from it. So basically, accountability, you need to look at the state of your business projects as a portfolio at set time intervals. For example, for our mastermind is held every 3 months. So I plan to basically have this framework, have people go through this framework once every 3 months, and then compare themselves to how they were doing beforehand. Basically try to make progress. If you are into health and fitness, it's the same concept. You measure your, let's say, waistline or your weight at certain intervals, time intervals, and you try to track your progress. And you got to do the same thing in your business. The absolute value doesn't matter as much as constantly making progress, because as we all know, regardless of where you are, as you make progress in every unit of time, you will end up somewhere good. So let's get started with that. The way I think about it, I look at 3 simple things when I want to take a snapshot or take inventory of my current business status. So I look at core, or main project that I call incremental progress. And I'm going to apply this to myself so that you guys see how I do it. Incremental progress, this is the main business that you're running. So, if you are a real estate agent. This will be the number of houses that number of deals that you did, or the dollar amount. If you sell stuff online, this will be the amount of revenue you've generated in the past, let's say 3 months. Let's stick with 3 months intervals. So basically you will measure how much sale you had, your revenue, sale, or whatever is a key performance metric. For example, I use my main business these days, the one that actually takes a lot of more energy than other projects that I have, is MentorBox, and the metric that I track there is a number of active subscribers. So I look at that improvement over time. So that would be my incremental progress. Then the next thing I look at is my breakthrough. Okay? And breakthrough is, so basically, let's put it this way, existed before. And I'm going to give it some color as I use an example. So incremental progress is a project that you've had for a long time. So compared to the previous checkpoint, which was 3 months ago, the answer is yes, it existed before. Okay? And the next thing is, okay, it existed before, but is it core to your business well-being? Meaning, without it, do you cease, like, does your business operation cease to exist? So the next question is it core? And the answer in this case is somewhat yes. So obviously I have other businesses. Even if MentorBox goes down, I'll be okay, but it is very core to the main thing that I do. So if your main thing is e-commerce, but you also do real estate on the side, you know, e-commerce would be the core. If you have a job, which is the main source of revenue for you, and then you have a hobby on project or some project on the side, you do real estate on the side or e-commerce or what have you on the side, then your job is actually the core, right? So incremental progress is on something that is core to the well-being of your business, and it has existed before, meaning in the previous checkpoint, which was 3 months ago, let's say in this case, it existed. It doesn't come to existence in the past 3 months. So new projects are not included in this line. Then here you put something that is measurable, like percent progress. So how much you've been able to grow this particular, the core metric for your core business or incremental progress since the last checkpoint. As an example, for MentorBox, I was looking at it earlier, we grew by about close to 30% in the past 90 days. So if I go with 90 days, so progress, 90-day progress, basically. Okay, so 9 days progress, let's say I was able to grow the business by about 30%. I mean, this is rough, but whatever, you get the point. Apply it to your own business. Breakthrough progress. Now, this is a project that came to, so the idea existed before, but you made a breakthrough in it in the past 3 months, right? So a lot of you who have watched my videos before, I always advocate you not only has to be pushing the ball forward on your main core business, meaning not only you have to be making incremental progress, but if you just stay with your core, meaning just focus on your incremental progress, over time you become obsolete. So that's how the business world works. A good example of that is Kodak, you know. It went completely out of business because it failed to innovate. Even though it was a big brand, it only focused on one product, and that product became obsolete. So not only you have to look at incremental progress, but you have to always have breakthroughs. And breakthroughs, this one that I talk about, breakthrough progress, is a project that existed 3 months ago, so it existed before. Is it core? No, it's not core, not yet. It might become a core one day, but at the moment it's not core. And then here you look at like how much. So here, for example, an example of this for me is we had a project, some of you might have heard of it, called Grass-Fed Brands, which we're gonna rebrand as Farmer's Box. It is a grass-fed beef subscription box, right? 3 months ago, this project was an idea. I mean, we had done some work, but it had not launched, right? So in the past 3 months, we went from 0 to 1. So we launched a product and generated the first few hundred of customers for the project. So The idea existed, but it was not, so there was no breakthrough in it. So it was just in the idea phase. We had a breakthrough in the past 3 months. And there, instead of looking at, percent progress in revenue or subscribers, you look at the improvement that you got in terms of probability of success of the project. So bear with me in a second and I will explain. So when you give birth to an idea, or when you start seriously executing on an idea, most people have a batting average. For me, it is, 1 out of 4 projects become really successful. So let's say my batting average is 25%. That's before launching the project. So right when an idea is generated, there's a 25% probability of success, right before execution, after the idea is generated. Now, once I launch the idea and then I have data points, I know that people want, we thought people want grass-fed beef products delivered to their houses, but we were not really sure. So it was more of an idea. We didn't know if we could sell it at scale and all that. So we were able, in the past 3 months, we launched it, and it did really well. We sold all the beef and pork and chicken in our inventory, literally every single thing that we had, and we got back ordered in about 3 weeks. So that tells me, that increases your confidence in the project, which in scientific terms, it means that it increases the probability of success. So before I did that experiment, 3 months ago, this was a 1 in 4 chance or 25% success rate. After that experiment, let's say it went to 50% success rate. Probability is still this is just a brand new startup, so there are a lot of obstacles in front of it. But basically, you had plus 25% increase in likelihood of success, okay? So I'm gonna put it plus 25%. I pushed the ball forward in terms of likelihood of success for this project by 25%. And in parentheses, it means I pushed it from 25% to 50%, okay? That's plus 25%, all right? You guys already get the idea of where I'm going with this, right? And the third thing, breakthrough progress, I'm gonna call this one a wild card. So a wild card, or a brand new idea, if you will, let's call it a brand new idea, whichever you prefer, okay? So this is an idea that did not exist 3 months ago, okay? So not only you have to have new projects that you're working on to trying to have breakthroughs, but you also want wild cards and brand new ideas. These are not incremental things. These are brand new business ideas, big feature changes in your product, new product introduction, what have you, quitting your job to start a company, depends on all of that. As long as it is a brand new idea, it fits in this category. Did it exist before? No. Is it core to your business? Absolutely no. And here, the progress goes from 0, right? So here, Farmer's Box 3 months ago, it existed. So it started at plus 25%. I pushed it to plus 50%. Here you're going from, let's say, if it's a brand new idea, you go from 0 to whatever is the success probability that you assign to your brand new ideas. For me, like I said, it's 25%. So it would be basically 0% to 25%. So you gave birth to a new idea, okay? So, and the improvement there will be 25%. I actually have a bunch of ideas here, but we have a new idea. I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but we have a project that 3 months ago I did not have the idea for it. Now I have a brand new idea that I'm excited about, and now I give it a probability of success of plus 25%, meaning it got pushed from 0%, meaning non-existence, to plus 25%. Now the idea exists, and that's the progress that you made here. So wildcard, breakthrough progress, incremental progress, okay? Another way to think about this is the main thing that pays your bills is here, okay? The next thing that will be the second, maybe the second revenue stream for your business, or the next thing that would be a better, even a better product in your existing business, what have you, and you've been working for a while on that, and then you had a breakthrough in the past 3 months, goes here, and a brand new project, so you know, a new idea, whatever, some sort of wild card is here. So the reason that I ask you guys to actually develop something like this for yourself, again, this is because you guys are not in the room with me. I can't. You have to hold yourself accountable to it. The reason I say organize your business efforts this way is because you really, at any single point of time, at every point of time, you need to have at least one in each category. At least one in each category. Make sense? You want mature revenue streams / projects / businesses that continue to grow incrementally. Okay? You need things that you've been working on for a while, and all of a sudden, once in a while, they pop. Like Farmer's Box, you know, we've been working on it for a while and it popped in the past 3 months. So that's like breakthrough, right? It just goes from 0 to 1. It goes from, you know, just an idea and maybe some context. It goes to customers and revenue. Or maybe it is something that you're, whatever. It could be a deal that went through. You've been a real estate deal that you've been working on for a while and it just pops. And underneath it all, you have always these new things that in the future they will pop to become a breakthrough progress, and then again pop to become, over time as they mature, they become incremental progress. So you guys get the idea. Projects mature this way, all right? So you always have to have this feeder right here that becomes breakthrough and over time becomes incremental. And then in every 3 months or 90 days, you want to keep yourself accountable to it. All right, so that is the overall framework. I would love if some of you guys take a moment and actually go through and maybe type it in, and I'll read through your application of this framework to your own projects, and maybe we go through it. All right, 14 minutes ago, 6 minutes ago. All right. There are a few questions here, but they're not directly related to this, so I'm going to wait on answering those. How many people are online, Josh?
I'll write it down for you.
Okay. Okay, cool, thank you. Yeah, just feel free. I want to kind of focus on this first before answering your other questions. So feel free to type in the comments. I'll give you guys a minute. Just think about it. In the past 3 months, in your main line of business or your revenue stream, what is an objective amount of progress you made? Okay. In something that you've been, has there been anything that you've been working on for a while and all of a sudden it kind of popped in the past 3 months? Like it went from, you know, just an idea or a thought or whatever to the first customer or something like that, or a deal that just closed. That would be your breakthrough progress, and just, you know, assign a probability to it and measure your progress that way. And then the wild card, you always have to have brand new thoughts and ideas, and that would be here. Okay. Does it take a while to see progress? Yes, it does. So Paul Davis asked, does it take a while to see progress? Yes, especially on this one, wild card. So wild cards or brand new ideas, they have a way of kind of like staying like flat, like it feels like no progress is being made. And then all of a sudden, a breakthrough is made. That's kind of like the nature of business. So it feels like things don't, even if you look at, you know, the success path of the most successful companies, they kind of feels like they have a hard time taking off. So they're kind of like meandering around the 0 line for a while, okay? And then pop, like they just kind of like get traction, they hit something happens. Different businesses are obviously different, but they kind of like pop, and then they start taking off. Like you might have also heard of the hockey stick curve, which kind of looks like this. So they kind of look like they're meandering, and then at some point, bam, you know, progress. So this can be very long or it can be very short, depending on how a lot of things, including how hard the project is to execute, the industry, how much capital, the experience of the entrepreneur. So, but you always want to have at least one of these in the pipeline, and then that way you get breakthrough progress. Breakthrough progress, so this would be just an idea, this phase. Breakthrough progress is when it kind of pops, like all of a sudden it comes to existence, or you know, gets customers or what have you. The deals get closed, something like that, right? So that's when it becomes breakthrough. So meandering ideas, but very important. The pop is when it becomes breakthrough progress, and when it matures really right here, that's when they're like, you know, a year or two into it. That's when you have then they go here. They become kind of like incremental progress. Yeah, feel free to share if you have applied it. Okay, so Robert Bales says, my day job is my main objective. It was flat or it went down 5%. So for Robert Bale, this was the main core is day job for a lot of people. It is actually their day job is a core business. And that was flat or went down 5%. So here, there was a negative 5%. It's okay. It happens. In life, it happens. Just the goal of this framework is to literally capturing this negative 5% or 0 to negative 5%. Let's put 0 here too. 0 or negative 5%. The goal of this is actually to be self-aware, because you might have a particularly good day and you feel good about yourself, and you don't or you might have a bad day and you do not feel that good about yourself. But having something like this, it actually allows you to objectively look at it with clear eyes. So you have an incremental progress that was 0 to negative 5%. My real estate side gig has not taken off yet, so no breakthrough yet. So basically for Robert Bales, it's okay, it's okay. Life is not always the same and it's not uniform. But as long as you put things into this framework and try to change that in the next 3 months, you will be okay. So incremental progress here, it is flat, let's say, or negative 5%, main job. No breakthrough, meaning none of your side projects actually popped in the past 3 months, so 0 here. And this, you have, the good news is you have one, which is real estate side gig, and it has, but you haven't had a breakthrough. It's okay, breakthroughs happen over time. What I suggest you do is that to add another one right here, and hopefully in the next 3 months, you will double the chances of one of them popping and becoming breakthrough. And if your main revenue stream isn't that great, hopefully one of these after 6 months, a year, or 2 years kind of become mature to replace this. Does that make sense? So you got to start thinking this way. Otherwise, and doesn't matter where you start. Remember, the goal here is not to get too stuck on where you are and focus on where you're going. And this framework kind of gives you that. And as long as you look at the screenshots objectively, it will help you over time. How do you, so Joshua Marquardt, I hope I pronounced your name right. You said, how do you move something from wild card to breakthrough? Here's the funny thing. Sometimes it is not in your hand. Sometimes it is. So it could be like, for example, somebody mentioned real estate projects. So for real estate projects, sometimes they take time. So you have a real estate project or a side project that is kind of going and the deal is not being closed, and all of a sudden you close the deal. That is a little bit out of your hand. For other businesses like online businesses, going from wildcard to breakthrough is basically a matter of launching. So everything that happens before you actually launch, meaning preparation, setting up the website, getting the product, what have you, right? That's still in the wild card stage. And then once you launch, if the launch is successful, then it becomes a breakthrough. Then all of a sudden you have sales and revenue and customers. If the launch is not successful, that's still okay. If you're planning to continue with this, I mean, a lot of times you have false starts. So you have a project that is meandering, happens actually in the life of big businesses, happens the same thing. So it looks like they're flat and they pop. It's not like they're not trying to launch during this time. They launch, but it's false start. They don't quite get it. They don't get the price right. They don't get the marketing angle right. A lot of things that goes into it. Every single one of them is an attempt to make this to make this idea pop, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. As long as you think it's still reasonable to spend energy on a project, keep at it until it pops. If it doesn't, at some point you have to also make the call to kill it. That's fine too, because as long as you're constantly loading new wild cards here or brand new ideas into it, and you try to make breakthroughs, right? You will have your breakthrough. It's a matter of time. So, but the key here is to not lose track of what you're doing, and don't go off of your gut feeling. Like I said, your gut feeling betrays you because it depends on your mood. Versus here, it's just, it's reality. It's a form you fill out. So hopefully it gives you the truth. So, somebody else said, Gyanvir Singh. Hopefully I pronounced your name right. Gyanvir sounds like. What if there is no increase in sale? That's fine. That's fine. So there's no increase. You can be zero. You can be flat. It's fine as long as you see it. You know that your core business. This is why it's important to do this. It eliminates self-deception. So if your income is flat, salary is flat, sales is flat, it's 0% improvement. It's not judgmental. It is not about judgment. It's about measurement, okay? So you're trying to measure it and it's 0%. So for the next 3 months, you need to either improve this one, increase this one, or hopefully you have something here that you can push up. Or you have something here that in the next year goes here and then go here, right? So it's something that can grow. The goal here is always, if it's not very clear, the goal here is for these numbers to be positive and as positive as possible, all right? If it's 0 right now, at least you know. And then you have two ways. Either push the same thing up, or you have things that move from bottom in terms of probability of success and ultimately replace this. Because if your main revenue stream is your job and your job is not going anywhere and you're not getting raises, well, you need to kind of replace it with something else. And then, so you start working here and here. By the way, this can be your main job if you are employed. This can be your main job. This can be another company that you've been talking to, another career opportunity. This is not just entrepreneurship. This could be another career opportunity. Or this could be, hey, I'm going to go look for a new job because my current employer sucks, right? So the same concept. Okay. How to manage your time between different projects. I can talk about that, but it's a little bit off topic. Paul Davis said, will it always be in this order? Yeah. I mean, I really don't see any other way for this to happen other than the way I explained it. So it starts from an idea, it goes to traction, another way to think about it, and then it becomes a mature business or a revenue stream, right? So it also applies to your career. You want to be an engineer. So you get an engineering degree, and while you're working on that, you're here. And then breakthrough progress is the first engineering job that you get. And then incremental progress is as you progress in your career. The same concept. It goes an idea to traction to maturity. Idea, traction, maturity. In business, it goes from idea to traction to maturity. In everything, basically, it goes in that order. Diego asked, where would you put SMMA? Depends where you are. If you just came up with the idea of an SMMA, it is here. If you have been working on it for a while and you got your first client, or second client, this is your breakthrough progress. It went from just an idea or some groundwork to first client, which means went from idea to traction, okay? And then if that is now your main thing and it is growing, then you put it here, incremental progress. I had 5 clients 3 months ago, now I have 7. I was making 25K a month 5 months ago, now I'm making 35. You see where I'm going with this? So, David asked, could there be a line below the wildcard line, something wilder than a wild card? Yeah, I mean, I guess you can. You can have here, could be just brainstorming line or whatever. It's just, I try to keep it focused. And you see, you guys, I mean, that's good that I get questions like that. It means that you guys get the concept here, the progress to the top, and trying to improve these percentages, bump them up depending on which category, but you try to bump them up, and if needed, you replace the top ones with the ones that are pushing from the bottom, okay? Yeah, but you can obviously have one below that even, but, you know, it's just, I think this is simple enough. Does progress equal success / dollars? Yeah, I mean, so they may not be necessarily the same thing, but they are highly correlated. So, you know, it just, the way I think about it is that progress, you can define progress as dollar if you want, then it's exactly the same. But even if you're not, progress correlates with revenue, in business at least. So most of the time, as long as they're correlated, you're fine. Okay. Have one main income, this is Joshua, that grows incrementally. Have a breakthrough project. Have wildcard test projects in the pipeline. Glad to hear. Okay, we have quite a few. So we have Gregor. I hope again I said your name right. Core is freelance. Great. Project, Amazon business. So this is actually a good example. So you're a freelancer. So this is another way of mentally putting yourself in this framework. Freelancer, meaning you're changing your time for revenue. Nothing's wrong with it. But as we all know, it's only the first step. So you start by exchanging your time for money. But over time, you don't want to continue doing that because you have a limited amount of time. So it puts a cap on how much revenue you can generate. We all understand that, hopefully, right? So, but it's fine. You are there. You say, okay, I have the core figured out. Great. Congratulations. You're a freelancer. You make money here. And you kind of want to look at your progress here, unless your next project is ready to replace it, right? But before it replaces it, you definitely don't want to lose track of your incremental, the core revenue, and incrementally improving it. So it could be charging more per hour, taking only projects that pay more, or what have you. Or having other people delegate some of your work so that not only you make money off of your own time, but also make money off of other people's time. So that is incremental progress. Don't lose track, don't lose your incremental progress unless you're ready to replace it. So you have freelance here, measure how much improvement you have. Maybe this is the number of the amount of money you make. Maybe the most important thing to you is how much money you made with how much amount of work. In which case you measure your progress that way, whatever is the most important metric to you. Then you have breakthrough progress, which is your Amazon FBA. So yeah, that does look like you want to sell things on Amazon. It could be here or here. If you've not started, it's just a thought, it's here. And when you start selling, it has popped and it goes here, okay? All right, good, we're getting quite a few. Let me see who else has it. How do you, Jamie asked, how do you track this accountability? So the way you track it is, and maybe we actually do this, you need to just kind of create a Google sheet or do it on a piece of paper, doesn't matter. And then have points in time, like, you know, In our mastermind, it's every 3 months, so we can kind of time it right. But if you're doing it to yourself at home, you just write it, put it in a Google Sheet, put a date on it. So it would be, spend 1 hour after this talk and develop your own snapshot right now. And 3 months from now, you will be putting the next data point on there. So it's if it is you, or you can have a friend be your accountability partner, basically work together to develop snapshots, and then 3 months later get together again and look at your progress in the past 3 months. All right, Patricia, my idea for a breakthrough in real estate deals is to establish a members real estate investment club. Okay, every member has access to private listings, and there's a cost to enter or be able to participate in an auction of this property and an event. I like this idea. Seems a below wild card. Actually, it doesn't. That is actually good enough, like it is articulated enough idea that can be right here. So in the next 3 months, your goal would be to generate some sort of evidence. Remember, I always talk about this, don't go off of your feelings and go off of objective measures of progress. So you want to create some sort of objective measure of progress for this idea in the next 3 months. An example of that would be getting a member or a few members, or having explicit interest from some members who want to participate. Okay, so that's when your project went from meandering around zero to pop, get off the zero line, right? And that's when it goes from a wild card to a breakthrough to breakthrough progress. And then you do that for 2 more time periods, let's say 6 more months, and then it's all of a sudden a solid business that can even be your main core business. Great idea, Patricia. All right. Okay, Kamari. I was working up to November, then my job. I like these examples, by the way. People are typing in. Everybody sees these comments, right? Yeah, just feel free to refresh and look at the comments. Actually, people are putting in what they think about this. I was working up to November, then my job came to an end. We'll talk about it in a second. I am on the SMMA program. I'm also doing the e-commerce, and I hope for these to be my breakthroughs. Okay, I'm leaving the real estate program till I have a breakthrough first in SMMA or e-commerce. Can you have 2 or more? Yes, you can. You can. It happens all the time. You can be lucky and have 2 breakthroughs in 1 time period. But the truth is, it's just, that's great if it happens. Most of the time, you're lucky if you have 1. So the goal here is honestly to have even 1 here. So I played with a lot of other projects in the past 3 months to different varying degrees of success, but I tend to only look at the one that really popped, right? So, and the one that really popped all of a sudden gets 90% of the attention that I have in this category. So I kind of divide my attention here, right? And then here, in every 3 months, you're lucky if you have 1 massive breakthrough. And if you do, you kind of make sure you don't drop the ball on it. So my hope is that you have right now several ideas, wild cards, if you will. You're working on several, which is fine. I normally advise to have 1 in each time period, but it feels like you don't have a job. So this has gone, so you need to kind of like, you have more time to focus on it. So the reason I say 1 versus 3 is because you kind of don't want to drop the ball on your main thing, right? So, but if this got eliminated, you all of a sudden have more time. That's a positive thing in losing your job, really. Sometimes losing your job is the best thing that has happened to your life. So it means that you have more time to dedicate here because you don't have anything here. You don't have anything here. You are focusing everything here, basically generating a bunch of new ideas or starting a bunch of new ideas. Hopefully one of them will pop in the next 3 months, if not in the next 6 months. And one of them will go here, and after 2 time periods after that, another 6 months, they go here. So that's kind of like the mentality. Can you have multiple cores at once? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. and it's fine, I would bundle them together. So I mean, it's, let's say, you know, a good example of that is like our holding companies, Berkshire Hathaway, right? It has, I can't remember, it has 90 mature companies in it or something like that. I might be mistaken on the number, but it's a large number of big companies under the portfolio. So their core is not like Geico as one of the holding companies. Their core is the overall financials of the entire holding company, which is fine. You just roll up the metrics one level up from, instead of looking at one core, you have basically multiple engines and you kind of combine them into a consolidated metric that shows your overall measure of progress. Should we do anything else between the 3 months? What kind of checks should we do at 1.5 months? So this is John. So basically John is asking, should I have a midway checkpoint between the two? I mean, if you have time, yes. I kind of like, I look at these, actually it's probably a good idea to look at it every 1.5 months. The truth is I'm so conscious of this myself that I really don't need to write it down, you know, every month or so, because I kind of like consciously drive this way. So when I wake up in the morning, I make sure, so you see, if you think about it, this is also like kind of breaks down your day. So when you wake up in the morning, the first thing you do, or I do, is I look at the numbers for my existing businesses, the ones that generate the most amount of revenue. I look at them every day when I wake up. So that is incremental progress. I make sure I don't drop the ball on this, and I kind of am like very careful about that. Then the new projects that are exciting me, and you know, they have shown progress, I'm like, oh, how much improvement did we make there? And then wildcard ideas, right? So you can't be just spacey and just be thinking about new ideas. You need to do all these three. So basically this is what I'm saying. If you feel like you're going off track, do this exercise again. If you feel like you can kind of, you get the concept and you are somewhat on track, then do it every 3 months. What do you do when incremental progress is interrupting you from taking wild cards to breakthroughs? It is actually somewhat, the purpose of this, believe it or not, is for advanced entrepreneurs, is a lot of advanced entrepreneurs, especially like people, like beginners sometimes, I mean, it's just, you know, they have a different kind of like set of problems than people that have been an entrepreneur for a while. Even the most advanced entrepreneurs sometimes fall, like they kind of like either bucket themselves, different personalities obviously, but some people just bucket themselves into, oh, this is my main business and this is the only thing I'm going to focus on. That's a trap. Remember, 3 categories, and you need to divide your attention among all 3, and you need to deliver on all 3. Otherwise, if you just focus on that, you will become obsolete over time. Businesses that do not innovate will become obsolete over time. There is not a single business that has not innovated and has been around for a long time. They all get phased out, okay? You don't believe me? Ask Kodak. And basically, this is like one category of advanced entrepreneurs. Another category of advanced entrepreneurs, they're just dreamers. And even though they might have been successful and they built a successful company and they have a core business now, all they're focusing on are the new projects. And that's where they spend all their money or time on new projects. And the way I think about it is that having a balanced approach where you look at all 3 is the reason that this exists. I kind of try to prevent myself from going one way or another. I try to have all 3 of them running at the same time. Okay. Evan, my SMMA my incremental is 0 to 5% growth depending on month over month for the last 3 months. Okay. Depending on the month over the last 3. Okay. That's so somewhat growing. Congrats on that. Your incremental is growing. No side breakthroughs have taken off yet. Remember, it kind of like wild cards or new ideas, they kind of like meander and pop once in a while, it's okay. As long as you don't have a dry spell for too long of a time. That's the whole idea. So if you have new ideas going and you're applying the right amount of effort to it, and you don't just focus on core, these pop once in a while. It's a numbers game. You are bound to have success. Okay. Working on a few side things, but I still have my main focus on SMMA, so I'm not chasing too many rabbits. I would like to get my SMMA to 25 to 30K, but no later than Q1 of 2019, working on new leads. All my current businesses is cold calls and referrals. So here's the thing. If SMMA is your main thing, okay, so these don't have to be necessarily different businesses, by the way. I thought I made it clear. So your incremental business right now is SMMA, and maybe you're getting your clients through cold calling or referral or what have you, whatever mechanism you have right here. So you got to do more of that. Breakthrough and wildcard can also be SMMA related, but they have to be a new thing. Like it could be a new type of service you offer in your agency, or it could be a new way to acquire customers. It could be a guerrilla marketing campaign. It could be using Facebook ads to get clients. It could be forging partnerships to get clients. You see what I mean? So it can be, but it has to be, so in order for it to be a wild card, it has to be a brand new idea. You're like, oh, I think this is another way I can get SMMA clients. I can get referrals. I can go to my existing customers and tell them, hey, I'm going to give you, if you refer another client to me and they sign up, I give you $10,000, right? That is a referral program, and that's a brand new idea, and that is a wild card. In the next 3 months, you start executing this, and if it becomes successful, then you have a breakthrough. Then all of a sudden, your SMMA has a new engine, okay, a new customer acquisition engine. And a year from now, that new customer acquisition engine has actually matured. It is part of your business, it's part of your core. And hopefully in the meantime, you did not forget to come up with new wild cards or ideas that turn into breakthroughs and then add to your core business in the future. It can be, like I said, they don't have to be completely different businesses, but it has to be a new aspect in your business, new customer acquisition mechanism, new product or service that you're offering, what have you, new partnerships. It could be trying to sell your company, or agency. That is, and if you sell it, obviously you're going to be happy. So it could be a project. Getting a bid will be a breakthrough. Selling it would be a success. Okay. All right. So I'm working on my agency. I get some jobs, like doing logos and stuff. So you do logos. 3 months ago, I got my first big client. Congratulations. So now I will focus just on my agency and quit college. All right, great. I'm in breakthrough phase. What should I do? So the first thing I can tell you is that hopefully you've thought about the idea of quitting college. I don't know anything about you, so it's hard for me to give advice here. But a lot of colleges actually allow you to take a break from university and not just quit. So, if that is an option, think about that. You kind of don't want to burn the bridges unless you're 100% positive what you're doing is right. So that is something that you need to figure out on your own. I can't really tell you, but I tell you this, if you have customers and you have a big client 3 months ago, to me, that's a breakthrough. And you're trying to make it a core for yourself, and I like it. So I would just say, you're in breakthrough, yes. What should I do? Continue to do more of, basically mature the business. Make sure you have a continuous, the goal here is simple. You want to make sure that what you did so far is repeatable and you can do it at a higher scale. So, meaning getting customers more frequently or in some sort of a predictive pattern, and also getting more of them, okay? So that's kind of what you need to be focusing on. All right, let me see. Damn, we have quite a few.
Yeah. Very engaged.
Yeah. All right, I like it. Thank you, guys. Thank you for going through the exercise. Okay. Is there a workshop you do for this, Alex? I have not. This is kind of like honestly, guys, this is how I kind of think about things myself. Make sure I have a portfolio of all three. And I haven't really shared it with the outside world recently I did it for our Business Builder Mastermind. And I haven't, and now you guys are the second group of people to actually hear about this. So maybe at some point it goes into some formal way. But right now, this is pretty simple. Hopefully you guys get the idea. How much of your energy should be directed towards finding the brand new ideas? Again, depends. Is your incremental in good shape? And do you have breakthrough here? Because this is actually this framework is designed to protect you against putting too much pressure and just ignoring in one category and ignoring the other. In other words, it's good to be a dreamer and come up with wild card ideas. It's great, but it can't be 100% of your effort unless you have nothing going on in these two categories. If you have all three, you need to listen carefully. You need to not only be able to generate ideas, new ideas, but when your new idea shows promise, you need to be able to go and grab it and make sure you execute. So people fail in all of these. So they are good idea generators, but then once an idea shows promise, they don't run with it. It happens all the time. So once an idea shows promise, you have breakthrough, run with it, okay? And then at the same time, if you have a core idea that is humming and paying your bills, make sure you don't drop the ball on it. So also push that forward. So the idea here is to actually do all three. I want to say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 might be the right formula. Spend 1/3 of your day being a dreamer. Spend 1/3 of your day to take those dreams or ideas that kind of showed progress to push them to the next level. And then spend the rest of it, making sure those ideas that are mature and they pay the bill and pay your employees or whatever, or your main job that is important to you right now, it also makes progress. And it's hard because you're really wearing three different hats as an entrepreneur, and a lot of times you have to. Sometimes if you have co-founders or a team, you can kind of divide this a little bit and have different people take care of different parts of the business. But the most important thing is all three of these has to be done. If you just stick with your core, you will eventually go out of business. It's not like you will just stay stagnant. You will eventually get replaced. Business is brutal, guys. Markets are brutal. They do not care about you. So if you're not careful, you get eliminated if you don't innovate. But on the flip side, if all you're doing is dreaming and coming up with ideas, and then once the ideas pop, you don't pursue them, you will never build anything meaningful. And if you don't, it's basically all of these are the things that this framework tries to prevent. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so my core thing would be working at McDonald's. This is Alejandro Ramos. While my breakthrough would be a Shopify store, which we just got our first 2 sales today and yesterday. Congrats. All right, you have sales. And my wild card would be starting a drop shipping store. Okay, I like it. So you have a complete framework. So you have a job that pays your bills, I assume, and make sure you don't drop the ball on it. It probably is not gonna, in that particular case, I would not focus too much. If this is something that you're trying to replace, just make sure you don't drop the ball on this. So it is okay to be 0%. Like I said, this is a flexible framework. This will be different for different people, and it serves a very specific purpose. I just want to give you a way to be able to compartmentalize your brain, right? So it doesn't matter that if your core is something that you don't like and you don't want to do forever, that's fine. Just make sure you don't drop the ball on it until you're ready to replace it. and then you have a wild card here, and you have something that you have some sales on. I mean, you can argue that 1 or 2 sales is not enough on a Shopify store, but who cares? I mean, it's just how you feel about it. Right now, you have 2 sales on this. You can kind of say it's a breakthrough because this is the first time you're doing it. And I want to say 50 sales is a number, but you can start here and you just put it here and you make sure you push it up and up and up. Maybe it hasn't gone from 25% to 50%. Maybe it has gone from 25% to 35% probability of success with those 2 sales. But the point here is that you pushed it through and you went from just an idea to some measure of progress, okay? And 3 months from now, hopefully you're in a much better position. Congrats, by the way, for the sales. It feels good when you make the first sales online. All right. Hayden, I'm currently enrolled in Ty's SMMA course, but I'm only through phase 1. If I complete this in 90 days, does that push it to breakthrough, or does it remain a wild card until I land my first couple of clients? I want to say breakthrough is when you have some traction, and traction is not inside of you, okay? So just because you feel like you completed the course or you're now knowledgeable is not, I wouldn't count it as traction. Traction is outside world signaling that what you're doing is valuable, okay? So that's the philosophy, right? So when a core business or a core revenue stream, it is proven that the market wants it. It's another way to think about it. It's proven that the market wants it, and that's like top, right? Breakthrough is when you get the first evidence that the market wants it, right? Another way to think about it is that evidence accumulates this way. There's idea, you don't know if the market wants it. Here you have signals, market is buying, like somebody, the person that I talked about right before, had 2 sales. 2 sales is not enough, but 2 people said they want the product. Better than 0, much better than 0. Actually, there's a huge difference between 0 sales and 2. So it's interesting. It's like market has given you signal. Now you can argue that the signal is not strong enough, but that's besides the point. It's better than 0. So what I'm trying to tell you in this particular case is, you know, completing the course, I would not consider that going from an idea to a breakthrough. Breakthrough is when you have 1 or 2 clients, okay? Or 1 or 2 clients have given you legitimate, has shown legitimate intent that they want to enroll. All right. Jamie, my incremental progress is stay at home, mom. That's perfectly fine. Breakthrough progress is Amazon FBA is no longer growing. Okay, wildcard is SMMA consulting, and the creation of a game to crowdfund with Kickstarter and launch on Amazon. Okay, so it's fine. It's perfectly fine. As long as, like I said, the goal of this framework is not to judge. It is to, well, I mean, somewhat it is to judge, but don't feel good or bad. It's like, I don't know how to say it's an objective measurement, right? It's objective measurement. You can try to turn it into, okay, so do I need to work harder here or there? Yes, that is kind of the goal. But the first thing is just looking at it. Like I said, it's like weight loss, right? So, I mean, the first step in weight loss is to measure your weight. And everything else kind of follows. So this is measure your weight kind of framework, like gives you a snapshot. And then 3 months again, you take another snapshot and do whatever magic or voodoo you need to do in the middle to go from this snapshot to a better snapshot, hopefully. And sometimes you can, sometimes you slide backwards, but hopefully for every 2 steps you go forward, you go back 1 step. So, all right. How much time per day should we work on a wild card while having a day job? The answer is a non-zero amount of time. Okay, so sometimes your job is very demanding and also very important to you. That's fine. As long as, and I say 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, this is not it's very subjective and depends on the person. But the point is, you can't ignore it. You cannot ignore it. You cannot ignore it. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, listen, some of you guys who are listening may not be entrepreneurs or may not want to be entrepreneurs, and that's fine. That's fine. You might be a career-oriented people, and that's another approach to life, and it's equally as good. I actually personally don't think entrepreneurship is the only way to go. But even if you're in the career game, your current job is your core business. A future job that is better than your current job is a wild card. And once you're actually getting interest and you're doing interviews, it becomes breakthroughs, right? So that's the same concept. It's not necessarily, just entrepreneurship. What software is good for keeping track of incremental progress? Google Sheet, just Excel sheet, I want to say. I might actually create a template for this. It seems like a lot of people are interested in this. So, should we break down accountability to weekly checkup? Depends. Like I said, if you kind of like you have absorbed the thinking framework, you may not want to do it every week. It might be overkill, but depends on how much you're actually operating this way. Okay, I haven't even refreshed. All right. Let's see if you have more. All right. This is a great framework. Thanks, Alex, aka the chef of business models. Thank you. I gotta like it. The chef of business models. Okay. So measuring percentage of progress in terms of revenue. Do you calculate the percentage based off of a projected annual revenue? Example, $100,000, and after 3 months, you are at 25K. Yes. I mean, depends again, it's like there's no hard and fast rules. You can pick whatever you want. I told you my main measure for most of my businesses is not actually dollar. It is number of actively paying subscribers. It's like the one that I track, and I always found out as long as like I push that number up, everything else falls in place. But it just, the key here is just track the same metric over time. So like I said, if you're trying to lose weight, you try to measure your weight when you wake up or before you go to bed. Either one of those, as long as you kind of have like apple to apple comparison. Evan said, thanks for clearing that up. That makes a lot of sense. I just actually started lead gen ads to acquire new client leads using Alex Engine techniques, and I've had 2 presentations in a couple of days from them and 1 new client already. So that will take me to 11,500 a month from 10K. So that is definitely a breakthrough. Great. So yeah, I actually, yes, in Alex Engine, I talked about a lead gen framework for agencies, not necessarily SMMA, but any kind of service-based business. I'm glad to hear it worked for you. To those of you who are not in Alex Engine, it's fine. It's basically running lead ads on Facebook with certain targeting. You can figure it out yourself. It isn't really not that complicated even, and I know for a fact that Facebook is a powerful tool to get new clients for service businesses. SMMA, consulting, what have you. How do you stay organized with all of this? Spencer. So Spencer, this is actually not that, I know the concept was just introduced to you, so it sounds like it's complicated, but it's actually not. It's very simply put, it is 3 buckets of things that you have to do along the risk curve. So this is the riskiest any business, if you will. Let me step back for a second and give you a little bit of theory behind this. So in business, what you're really doing from the moment of inception of the idea to launching the product and then obviously growing your market. So it's all you're doing is that you're pushing the idea down a risk curve. So you're reducing the risk or increasing the probability of success, either one of those, right? So at the point that you have a brand new idea, the project is the riskiest. Like it's just an idea. There's no evidence that the market wants it. It's almost worthless. I mean, it can be worth a lot, but at this point, the probability of success is low. The risk is high, okay? So when you start launching a product and you collect evidence that the market wants it, all right? So basically, remember, I have this way of thinking about business that, you know, I think of it as all I'm doing, especially at the beginning stages of a business, it's not I'm not selling a product at all. That's not the goal. The goal is to collect evidence that the market actually wants the product. Let me say it again. The goal at the beginning of launching a business is not to sell the product. I mean, even though that's what you're effectively doing, that's not the goal. The goal is to collect evidence that the market wants your product. And why is that important? Because when you have more evidence that the market wants your product, you have reduced the risk. You have increased the probability of success, okay? So all you're doing, this is the riskiest category, all right? You collected evidence that the market wants it, meaning it popped, it has traction now. So you have evidence, now it's a breakthrough. And then over time, as the business gets mature, now there's less risk, okay? And that becomes a mature business that you're just incrementally pushing forward, okay? So to answer your question, once you understand the underlying reasoning for it, all I'm doing is that I'm in financial terms, I'm trying to have your brain to kind of get diversified across the risk spectrum. So you have brand new ideas, risky ideas, you have medium risk and you have low risk. And I don't want your brain to just be in low risk. I don't want your brain to only be in high risk or medium risk. I want your brain to be spread across the risk portfolio. That's a diversified business strategy, okay? So as long as you think that way, and the framework kind of forces you to do that. So that's why I have this framework for you guys, because it kind of forces you to think that way. But then once you have it, once you think about it that way, then really, I mean, even this is not like, it's just second nature. It's a byproduct of how you think about business anyway. So it may sound overwhelming at the beginning. All right. People like the idea of having a template sheet for this. Where do you find wildcard ideas? Ellens. So this is a little bit harder to teach. This is the game of idea generation. Believe it or not, most great ideas, even though we say ideas are generated, they're never generated. They're just a mutation or change on an existing idea. So honestly, you should be reading a lot. You should be looking at, business publications, newspapers, blogs that show the latest companies that are successful. And ideas will come to you once you see a pattern. So none of us are smart enough to generate ideas in vacuum. Believe it or not, nobody is. So really, what most of us mere mortals can do is to look at what is succeeding right now or popping right now and create our own variation on it. So yeah, that's why it's very important to read and be informed. So my first answer to you is read a lot. So this is a great framework. Okay. All right, cool. So Josh, how am I doing on time?
You're
Okay.
Another half hour to 45.
Okay. Okay, guys, I have half an hour to go, so feel free to throw your questions at me. All right, 11 out of 10 on the template idea. Okay, it seems like, all right, I gotta make this template now. You guys generate a lot of work for me. Yeah. Huh?
You're killing it, Chef Alex.
Chef Alex. The funny thing is, yeah, maybe I can cook businesses, but I can't cook food to save my life. Okay, so I'm going to take a few other questions. Maybe we have hammered the subject enough. I want to take a few other questions. All right, let me see. What are the questions? All right, let me scroll down. Da-dum. What do you think I should answer, Josh?
Did you see this one from Jamie Green? Measuring percent of progress in terms of revenue. Do you calculate the percentage?
I answered that one.
You did.
Yeah. All right.
Further down.
Okay.
So you
Well,
may have kind of like how can this work?
the
for
most
beginners?
important. Yeah. Let's say you have a good product. So this is Devon. Let's say you have a good product market fit based on experimentation. Nothing feels better than product market fit, having good product market fit. If it doesn't launch quickly, what is the main sticking point for improving progress and moving the business up the categories on the chart in your experience? So your question, I'm going to interpret it. So hopefully what you're asking me is, you have a product. So basically what you're saying is that you have another product, you have an idea, you launched it, and it kind of got off the zero axis, like it got some traction, and then what prevents things from going up here. Okay, so the first thing I tell you is the number one job of entrepreneur. I've said this so many times over the years, and I want to say it one more time. The number one job of an entrepreneur, the number one job that you cannot, like you can even here, right? As an entrepreneur, you can build a business. You may not be good at execution at this level. You can bring an external CEO. There are people, executives, professionals, guns for hire, that you can hire to come. If you build a business is successful, you can always find people to run it, okay? So this is very important, but not as important as step number two. It is not as important as step number two. Step number two is, once a project, this is literally the definition of an entrepreneur, is once an idea shows promise, they're able to take it, manifest it, build a business around it. And then it may not be very well run, in which case they have failed kind of in this category. But if I were to pick a particular weakness across these categories, I would pick this weakness as like, you can live with this weakness as an entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, you cannot exist without being able to do this, meaning an idea shows promise. So the number one job of an entrepreneur is to determine if there is a product market fit, meaning you have a product, you have an idea, you launch it to the world, you get traction, it gets off of the x-axis, it kind of comes up, and your job is to kind of like push it past that point, like first prove that the market wants it, and then push it to a point where it kind of becomes mature. And even if you're not really good, a lot of entrepreneurs are not good CEOs. Actually, that is true. A lot of good entrepreneurs are not good CEOs. Some entrepreneurs are also good CEOs, which is like a well-rounded entrepreneurs. right? They can generate ideas. They present it to the market. Market wants it. They go. This second step is very important. They push it from 0 to some respectable number, and then, you know, if they're really good and they're also good executives, they also remain CEOs and continue running the business, okay? That is the ideal world. But some people are not organized, or being a CEO requires a lot of our skills, including leadership. It requires organization. It requires a lot of things. So some people don't have the last piece, and that's fine. You can always have professional CEOs do that part. Now, if you're a professional CEO, if your job, like one of my mentors, he is literally, his job in his entire career has been to be a professional CEO. He's like, he's what they call a drop-in CEO. He's been the CEO of 30 companies. So when companies are in trouble and they need a CEO, they just put him in place. He doesn't create companies. He doesn't grow companies. He just comes and replaces as a CEO and just organizes the company, right? So that's a particular skill. He's really always doing this. Always. That's the only thing he does. And that's fine, but he's not an entrepreneur. He doesn't even call himself an entrepreneur. He's a professional CEO, okay? He's been the CEO of 30 companies. Just think about that for a second. So that's a particular skill set. Now, not every entrepreneur is as good as him in being a CEO. And sometimes entrepreneurs really suck at being a CEO, which is fine. You can still be an entrepreneur as long as you know your limitation and you know that you're not good at this. You can find professional managers to take your business to the next level. But without this stage, you are not an entrepreneur. It's just by definition, you're not an entrepreneur. Meaning the moment you collected enough evidence that a project is good, like the market wants this particular product or service, it is your job to actually prove that the market wants it. It's literally first stage, which is why I say 52 customers or whatever is the tipping point for you. I use the number 52. So I try to get 52 customers for a new project or a product. I mean, it obviously is like an arbitrary number and it depends on a lot of things, but I use 52. But then that's evidence. Now I have evidence. I can put it in front of everybody and get them excited. I can use that evidence to raise funding for a business. I can use that evidence to hire people for my business. I can use that evidence to go to a supplier if it is a physical product and have the supplier to believe enough in the product to actually finance the first inventory for the product. You see what I mean? That's entrepreneurship. That's like ideas. Oh, this one has potential. I'm gonna now use the entrepreneurial skill, which is like a lot of like basically figuring shit out, basically. Take this evidence and go influence people to join my team, influence people to invest in my company, influence manufacturers to build my product for me, influence whatever to get new customers and just grow it. And once it kind of is shaped like a business, then I take my entrepreneurship hat off and put the operator or CEO hat on, and now I'm the CEO and I'm like, oh, so how do I make sure that my finances are good? How do I make sure my employees are paid? How do I make sure I have whatever, all the things that you need to do to grow a business? So hopefully it made sense. So the answer to your question is a lot of things can prevent, so number one job, collect evidence that the market wants your product, okay? If you fail in that, you're not an entrepreneur. Number two, once you have that evidence, you need to be able to go and leverage that evidence to get more customers, hire people, fulfill product, get investment, what have you, to turn this evidence-based product market fit into a business, into a real company. Just because a product has potential and you have proof that it has potential doesn't mean it is a company yet. It becomes a company once you build all other things around it, and then the company needs to be operated and grown and nurtured to become a mature company, which is a whole different set of skills. But the first thing that I want to make sure you guys get right is that first, think about it in this order. I need to My dog is just running around everywhere chasing a fly. What is she doing? So you have Lexi. So you have basically an idea. You're collecting evidence for the idea, and then you're turning that idea into a business, and then you're growing that business. Kind of like that order. The middle part is the most important part where most entrepreneurs fail, which is why I say this is very important. Idea generation, you obviously have to have, as an entrepreneur, you need to have ideas. But frankly, a lot of times our ideas are out there. Like SMMA, you don't have, it's not your idea. Everybody's doing a SMMA or a marketing agency. It's like the ideas are, you can just, you just grabbed an idea that existed there, right? Now, you're trying to put your own spin on it, and your marketing abilities, you're going to put your own spin on it, collect evidence that is actually doable the way you're doing it, okay? And then use that evidence to influence people to come join your team, to influence people to give you more business, to influence a bank to give you a loan, a business loan, and on and on and on. And then at some point, if it becomes really big, you're going to step down and bring a CEO. In fact, that's what I did in my previous company. I ran it for 7 years, and just stepped down. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. You bring people, fresh legs to run your mature business, okay? All right. All right. So Patricia asks, is it possible to talk about your day and routine? How do you micromanage, and how do you work with your team 24/7? So here's the beauty of this framework. It kind of gives you a way to kind of time divide as well. So time block as well. So in the mornings when I wake up, I literally, all I care about is this. Now, if I did not have all these businesses, I would not be thinking about this when I wake up, right? But when I wake up, because this is very important to me, this is probably like maybe 40% of my entire day. So, but I start with this. I look at the numbers. Before even I get out of the bed, I just pull my laptop and I start looking at stuff. And a lot, it doesn't even require talking to people, even though we check internal chat channels in the morning. But a lot of it is like, how's the business doing? Then you wake up, and you talk about, I don't micromanage really. I'm actually kind of like a hands-off manager a lot of times, good or bad. But the key here is actually to find the right people in your team, because if you have hired the right people, regardless of your management style, the team will do okay. And that's kind of like has been always my philosophy. So instead of trying to perfect, like have the best management approach and all that, so there are different parts, right? There's leadership and there's management. Leadership is about inspiration, it's about direction setting, it's about strategy, it's about convincing people to come join you, to inspire people. That's leadership. And management is like, do I tell you exactly everything you need to do, or I kind of rely on you to do it and I just check your workings once in a while? How do I, compensation models and all that, right? So leadership is very important. Management is important if you don't have a good team. Okay, so my approach in life, in business, not in life, but in business has been hire the right people, and regardless of your management skills, things kind of work out. So I kind of work around that problem by hiring the right people and try to inspire, hiring the right people and inspiring them and motivating them and giving them a why, their why they need to focus on these particular missions. And once you have that, you have the right people in place. I have found out that I just not a good use of my time to focus that much time on management techniques. Try to be optimal. Not that I don't manage, I manage, but I found out that it doesn't make much of a difference if I have picked the right business and I've hired the right people. it kind of almost like you kind of eliminate the need for having the perfect management systems in place. How do I work with my team? We internally use a lot of WhatsApp. Ty and I and our team use WhatsApp a lot, and that's kind of like our main way of communicating internally. And routines, I tell you this second part, which I said breakthrough progress, like you have a brand new project and you want to push it to the next level. I consider myself more of an entrepreneur and less of a manager. Which means I obviously want to make sure that the company that I'm the CEO of MentorBox, I want it to do well. So I have to make sure that it incrementally is growing. But at the same time, a new idea like our grass-fed brands idea, if it shows progress, it is my job to make sure that we run with it. So that is kind of like the entrepreneurship hat. So hopefully that kind of made sense. So I didn't quite answer your question, like give you like between 8 and 9 a.m. I do this, between 9 and 10 a.m. I do this, because I don't have those. I kind of go with what is needed to be done a lot of times. Okay. All right. If I'm trying to determine whether my burrito ideas has product market fit, what steps should I take to prove this? Well, first let me tell you, just saying the word burrito made me hungry. So I don't know what your burrito ideas are, but they sound very delicious. So it's hard to answer this question because it's like I need more details. If you are trying to kind of like are playing with the idea of a burrito like store or a burrito truck, which is very hot in San Francisco. I mean, if you've been to San Francisco, there are gourmet burrito trucks at every corner. I have talked about physical stores are a little harder. I've talked about pop-up shops. You can definitely do that. You can rent stores that are in transition for a short period of time, like a restaurant that is like going out of business and the landlord is looking for another tenant that is also a restaurant. You can use those time periods to occupy that space for a short period of time. There are hurdles that you need to clear. Burrito trucks are a little bit easier, but still even those require some investment. So food is a little bit more capital intensive. I don't have a simple answer for you. You need to raise some money, most likely case scenario. For example, for our own beef subscription product, we had to clear regulatory burdens and raise money to actually push the product to the market. But the beauty of this, so that's the negative side of it. The positive side of it is that businesses that have a barrier to entry, if you're able to raise capital and push them forward, right, to actually launch a project, there is some barrier to entry for other people. So it's like, some online businesses are a lot easier to prove or disprove. All right. How to know if you have to kill an idea or to persist? So again, it is a little bit business dependent, but I use a rule for online businesses, especially if I'm selling a product or widget online or service online. What I do is that, I kind of think what would be a reasonable cost per acquisition, CPA, cost per acquisition, cost to get a customer for this business. If for example, let's say I want to sell this marker, and this market, I want to sell it for $20. It would be too expensive for this, but just for a second, stick with me. Imagine I want to sell this for $20. And I say, well, I can afford to pay all the way to, $12 to sell this product in marketing. It means that if I'm marketing it on Facebook or Google or any other ad platform or YouTube, I can spend, to get 10 customers, 10 first customers, I need to spend 10 times $12 that I can afford to market this per unit. That is $120, right? So what I do is that I start running an ad for it, and the budget is $120. And if I don't get any conversions in $120, that's a bad sign. I go back and I try to figure out why it didn't work, and I try one or two other times. If I had a single conversion, like even I spent $120 and I got a single one or two conversions, right? Then I say, okay, so it looks like I can sell it at a price that is no higher than 10 times my target CPA. So it's like, it's bad. If you get 10 conversions and it's like $12 CPA, that's great. But if you got one conversion up on a $120, it's a high CPA. I spent $120 to sell a $20 product, okay? It's not good, but it's not catastrophic, meaning I can improve from there, okay? Then what I do is that I try to optimize my landing pages, whatever I need to optimize, the ad copy, the way I market or talk about this market, because you are at a point where you are within the striking distance and you can improve. So, from there, I try to then, my next target would be 50 times the target CPA. So 50 times $12, that is $600. So my next thing would be, okay, it's kind of showed promise. It's not great. I didn't hit it in the first attempt, but that's very natural, very normal. So I can improve from here. So I'm going to do 650 times CPA now. And in the process, I'm going to try to improve it to hit the right CPA. So then I have a $600 budget. So basically, I incrementally increase my commitment to a particular product or project. It doesn't work for, if you have a medical device company or you have a restaurant concept, this approach does not work. But if you're selling a product online or service online, you can do the same for leads for your, service company, marketing agency, or what have you. Same approach works. You try to do lead gen 10 times your desired CPA first attempt, and then 50 times, or I use 52, like I said earlier, it's an arbitrary number. I use 50 times the target CPA as a second. So it's basically like, okay, I'm going to commit 10 times desired CPA to the first experiment. Oh, it is not that great, but it's not completely out of whack either, so I can work on it. Then I assign 52 times, or 50 times, let's say, target CPA for the second one. And then you just incrementally increase. If you get better results now you are selling these markers at 20, let's say, you improved it, and now you're selling $30 CPA. So you pay $30 to sell a $20 marker. Still, it can be within striking distance, meaning with optimizing your targeting, with training your pixel, improving your sales pitch, changing your price point, also back end, like having other things bundled with it so that people also buy other stuff with it. Maybe this is a loss leader. There are a lot of possibilities. So, you're now close. So now I will double, triple down the budget, and I try to push it one level closer. So it's kind of like I kind of scale my commitment into a project. And the moment I hit it, like it is now a profitable, or at least theoretically profitable business, then I move it from just an idea to a breakthrough. All right. After collecting enough feedback to my physical product invention, would you say the next stage is to build a proof of concept? Yes. And then show it to get more evidence? Yes. So it's a physical product invention. I'm assuming it's a hardware or something like that. Proof of concept and Kickstarter. I talked to Reid Hoffman. I covered Reid Hoffman for MentorBox. He's got a new book called Blitzscaling. by the way. So it's a great book for you, for those of you guys who are interested in the second stage of, this is second stage. As a matter of fact, now that I think about it, blitz scaling is his approach to doing this stage, this middle stage. It's like go from idea with proof of evidence to a massive company in an almost chaotic manner, okay? So he called it blitz scaling. Now that I think about it, it's kind of like aligns with this. So he has a few lessons inside Mentor Box, and I tell you this one lesson that was interesting because him and I mean, I am obviously a big fan of his work, but I didn't know a lot of things. This is some of the things that the way he think about things is very similar to what I'm telling you guys on how I think about business anyways. He talks about you know, the concept of pre-selling a product, and he agrees with me that Kickstarter is great, but the best thing to do is to actually pre-sell your product on your own website. I 100% agree with that. So you have a proof of, if you have the idea, you have evidence that it works. Now you create a proof of concept, an actual thing that you can create a video of and make it more believable, right? The term we use here is called demonstrate here in our own internal marketing team. I call it demonstrate. Demonstrate the product. It's the most powerful thing that you can do to actually make people want something. So the goal here is that, okay, now you have some evidence. It justifies building a proof of concept. You use proof of concept to kind of demonstrate the product even more so that you can generate even more evidence that this is a good idea and generate sales. And that's the goal. You think about it right, exactly right, in fact. Are there cities, markets that are oversaturated with SMMAs? I don't know. It's a great question. Richard, I've not heard of that, but it is possible. But hey, this is a big world, right? So, all right, Justin, this content is amazing. Alex, if you woke up tomorrow and lost everything, where would you start? What's the first business move? John. So here's the thing. There's something good about there are a lot of things that are not good about entrepreneurship. Trust me, entrepreneurship is, I mean, I know a lot of you guys want to become entrepreneurs. I actually tell people think hard before you want to become an entrepreneur. But one of the good things about entrepreneurship is that it gives you ninja skills, like things that are very valuable and you can gain in really no other way, right? And those ninja skills actually make you good consultants. And if you've seen me talk about this topic before, I always say brand new entrepreneurs who don't have much right now, the best thing they can do is to start a service company, meaning training your time for revenue, meaning a consulting company. SMMA, marketing agency, is a consulting business. Okay, you guys get the concept, right? So if I wake up tomorrow and I truly am wiped out and I have zero, and if my brain is intact and I didn't also get knocked out in the head and lost half of my brain, what I would do is I would just use my skills and I would build a consulting company, a service company, and that would be my first step. Now, over time, remember, you can always scale service companies. In fact, there are massive service companies. Deloitte, KPMG, Accenture, McKinsey, BCG. These are all Bain. These are big consulting companies. Ogilvy, marketing company. There are massive service companies out there. But I find scaling service companies really hard. I actually prefer to scale software companies or product companies, okay? So I would start from service and then I would branch out to product or product companies or software companies. But the easiest starting point, I can probably start a consulting company in the next week if I want to, and it would generate good revenue. And yeah, that's what I would do. For a lot of you guys, that's actually the right answer, especially if you've developed a particular skill. like marketing or design or product or what have you. Cool. How are we doing on time, Josh?
We can start to wrap up, I think 10 minutes.
Okay. Is it wise to run ads on a product even if you don't have it yet? Not only is wise, I recommend it. I highly recommend it. In fact, I do not know why people build a product before trying to see if there's product market fit. It makes no sense. So, which is literally what I was mentioning a minute ago. Like Reid Hoffman and I did an interview with him, and he also said the same thing. It's just, you almost don't want to go bother building a product or service if the market doesn't want it. And if there's a way to measure if the market wants it ahead of time, meaning pre-sale of the product, even at a massive discount, even at a loss, you are foolish not to take that information. That information, remember what I said, the number one job of an entrepreneur is to determine if there's a product market fit, right? That is the number one. That's the first thing you do, is collect evidence that there's product market fit. So you will be foolish to prioritize building the product over that if you can measure product market fit without building the product, right? So what you do is that you create the concept of the product, and then you measure market demand, looking for evidence that the market wants it. Kickstarter is a good example of this, right in front of your eyes. You know, companies that sell a lot of products on Kickstarter, like they have successful Kickstarter launches, they are more likely to succeed than companies that did not succeed in their Kickstarter launch. But that's not a causation, it is correlation, meaning that a successful Kickstarter launch shows evidence that there is demand for the product. It doesn't make the product successful. It just shows that the product will be successful. It is predictive, not causative. Hopefully that makes sense. So that's why I'm a big fan of pre-selling stuff on Kickstarter or otherwise on your own website. Don't build a product yet. Say, hey, we are planning to build. You've seen this. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen Kickstarter launches. It's just they show a prototype, they show you the concept, they give you some perk for signing up early, and you know, and it just measures the demand. The goal is not to raise money. The goal is not to raise money. The goal is not to sell the product. The goal is not to sell the product. The goal is to collect evidence that the market wants it so that you don't waste your life on products or services that the market does not want. Hopefully that makes sense. The massive difference. People they say, oh, they want to raise money on Kickstarter. I'm like, the money is irrelevant. You can raise money in many, many different ways. A lot of them are better than Kickstarter. You can bootstrap a lot of these products. You can raise money from venture capitalists. You can have your vendors finance the first batch of your inventory. There are a million different things you can do to finance a product if you have evidence that the product is actually something that the market wants, okay? And pre-selling is the best way I know to prove or generate evidence that, you know, the market actually wants it. Put yourself in the shoes of an investor. If I'm an entrepreneur and I come to you with a crazy idea and I have zero evidence for why the market works, would you invest in me? Now, let me change this a little bit. Let's say I come to you and I say, hey, here's the product that I'm planning to launch. And by the way, here are 500 people that have signed up, have paid to get this product delivered to them the moment I have it. Are you not more likely to invest in my product? It just put yourself in the shoes of the investor. They're looking for risk reduction or evidence, really. So, and this is true of your employees. You know, if it's easier to hire talent, it's easier to get vendor financing, it's easier to get bank financing, even though banks are a little harder in general, but any other sort of lender. It's easier to get investors. It's easier to convince some site to list your product. So it just, there are many things that come with collecting evidence. So going back to your point, what's more important, building the product or getting evidence that the product is something that the market wants? I would say all day, it is more important to collect evidence that the market wants your product. Building the product is actually kind of like an afterthought. I mean, you obviously want to be able to build a product, you just don't want to sell something that you can't deliver. But if you know that you can build it, before you spend a lot of energy and capital and go mortgage your house, which, by the way, I saw like a few years ago, I got introduced to this entrepreneur who literally, he had a family. He mortgaged his house that his family lived in to build a product that there was no proof that the market wanted. There was none. That is crazy to me. And I try to prevent you guys from doing that. So just don't do it. Try to collect evidence first. Would you wear a chef hat if I sent it to you? John, I gotta see. I might. Chef of businesses. Also, could you recommend a book? I mean, I obviously can recommend a book, many books, but for marketing specifically, there's a book. I've talked about this before, I'll say it again. It's a great book. It's called How Brands Grow, How Brands Grow, What Marketers Don't Know by Byron Sharp. So check that out. I have never met the author. He's not even in Mentor Box, so not biased. I just think it is one of the best marketing books ever written. All right. All right, one more question and then we wrap it up. My WhatsApp is going crazy. All right, cool. I guess we just wrap it up. We have more questions, but they're kind of off topic and it would get me started on a whole new thing. All right, so just departing, a final thought, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to kind of want to close the loop on this. Remember my analogy, if you want to lose weight, the first thing you want to do is to measure your weight. This is a tool to measure your business weight, okay? It is not to, I mean, it gives you a screenshot of where you are in terms of like your current distribution of business attention across the risk spectrum. I know that was a little bit wordy, but it's important for you and I to understand the underlying reasoning for this framework. You gotta have risky thoughts, medium risky thoughts, and then mature businesses. Like risky ideas, medium risky ideas, like ideas that are almost turning into a business, and then businesses, okay? And then obviously it's a spectrum. It goes from wildly speculative to very, very mature. Think like Apple is a very mature company. A brand new idea that just hit you this morning is a wildly speculative idea. So that's the spectrum. You kind of want to have a little bit of all of them, okay? And then if you don't have some sort of division of responsibility with a business partner, that one of you guys focuses more on ideas and one of you guys focuses more on execution, which is fine, then you have to be able to address all of them yourself. If you're alone, you have to be able to address all of them yourself, which means you need to learn how to compartmentalize and address each piece individually, okay? So take a screenshot of your current business status. Do this in an Excel sheet. I will create a template, a Google Sheet template for this. I got to think how to organize it, but you can do this on the paper, on the paper for now, and then measure yourself again 3 months from now. Some of you guys are not as patient, so you want to do it every week, every month. I don't care. As long as every so often you can take this, as long as you understand the underlying method, you can take this and apply it in, like, change the form to fit you, right? So it could be every 3 months. Like I said, I think in these terms every day. So I kind of like, I don't have to write it down every day. So it kind of like, my brain kind of compartmentalizes automatically. But if you feel like you're being too off track and you're just focusing on one thing and not the others, just do it once in a while. Keep yourself accountable. Get a friend to be your accountability partner, or get your business partner to be your accountability partner. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for filling out the framework and sharing your thoughts and ideas with me. And I look forward to seeing you in other live calls. Thank you, guys.